Hello and welcome to a special election edition of Valley View News. I'm Lauren Lanos.
And I'm Danny Max. Recapping the 2014 midterm election highlights. Jerry Brown has been re-elected for a record-setting fourth term as California governor. Brown led the Democrats, who swept all the statewide offices. Democrat Gavin Newsom won another term as California's lieutenant governor. Democratic incumbent Kamala Harris has won her second term as Attorney General. Comptroller John Chung was elected as California's new treasurer. Democrat Betty Yee has taken Chung's seat as California's comptroller. And the big story across the nation, Republicans have won a majority in the U.S. Senate, and they added their majority in the House of Representatives.
Jerry Brown will be living in the governor's mansion for a historic fourth term. Alex Padilla and John Chung also will take California office in 2015. Valley View News reporter James Jewett says Democrats are in high spirits despite losing the Senate.
Democrats came together to celebrate a well-run campaign. Despite this national setback for the left, officials are confident about California's ability to be a leader for the rest of the nation.
This is a disappointing night across the country, but here in California we've proven that you can be progressive and blue and win.
California prides itself in policy leadership. What we do here to, protect the environment, try to reduce climate change, shift to renewable energy, is sort of California being the example for the rest of the nation to eventually follow.
Washington, D.C. unfortunately has been locked in gridlock, and they've had policies that haven't been supported because of that gridlock. But California, we've shown that we can make progress. We're going to have to continue to work amongst ourselves and demonstrate that we're going to be competitive in the 21st century.
Governor Jerry Brown will take a historic fourth term as governor of California. I'm here at the Democratic Night Election Party where the mood and spirits are very high. In downtown Los Angeles, I'm James Jewett for Valley View News.
The Democrats cruised to victory in most races across California, but local Republicans still found plenty to cheer about.
Valley View News reporter Zoe Reynolds traveled to Costa Mesa where Republicans held their election night rally.
And I want you to know this, I'm just getting warmed up.
Despite a losing battle against Jerry Brown, Republican challenger Neel Kashkari and his supporters see his campaign as a success.
I am so proud of the campaign that we ran and the team that we had and the job that they did. I'm proud to be associated with all of them and each of them, and I hope they would say the same to me.
On election night, California Republicans gathered at the West and South Coast Plaza in Costa Mesa to watch the national race and rally in support for local Republican candidates. Republicans are confident dissatisfied voters in both California and across the nation are warming up to Republican platforms.
Many younger voters voted for President Obama. They were swept up with the Obama elections of 2008 and 2012. That's really soured a great deal. And millennial voters are much less wedded to a political party or political philosophy than previous generations.
Many Republicans say America's infatuation with Obama is over.
I think that once in a while you see the impact of too much one-party control. There's a little arrogance. Things happen that aren't representative in government.
The Republicans took an additional 7 seats in the U.S. Senate, becoming the majority. In Costa Mesa, Zoe Reynolds, Valley View News.
Republicans are now the majority in the U.S. Senate, and they added to their majority in the House of Representatives. Democrats lost races in key states including Montana, South Dakota, Arkansas, West Virginia, and North Carolina. GOP senators held on in close races in Kansas and Georgia, ensuring Republican control of the U.S. Senate. Mitch McConnell is now the majority leader in the Republican-controlled House. The GOP now has 246 seats. That makes it the largest majority any party has held since World War II.
39% of the California voters in this midterm election cast their ballots through the mail. But those who still wanted to vote in person made it to their local polls.
Valley View News reporters Courtney Faust and Laura Camello talked to voters outside polling places in the San Fernando Valley.
People have cast their votes that will shape the upcoming term. Both parties admitted the outcome of the race was hard to predict. Propositions are a concern for voters. Nicole Armstrong says she is concerned about Proposition 1.
I think it's disguised as, a drought preventative proposition, which is great, but a lot of the things that were written in it are more of like jobs creation, and what raised some red flags to me were all the people behind it who are, throwing $13 million into voting yes on it, so it really makes me wonder what's in it for them.
Republicans anticipated victory and only needed 6 seats to gain control of the Senate, but Democrats were hoping to somehow block a Republican takeover. Gina Wynn thinks Proposition 1 is important when it comes to accessing water.
Especially since, we're trying to have less bottled water around, that we should be able to just, put your cup under the sink and drink tap water.
The results of this election are likely to affect President Obama's last 2 years in office. He's going to face both a Senate and a House with more Republicans. Valley View reporter Laura Camello has more on voter turnout in the East Valley.
The polls were calm in the East Valley Van Nuys Center, where voters in California and across the nation headed to vote in the midterm elections. People showed up to cast their vote, but not as many as expected, especially for the Latino community. Among the key items on the state ballot this year is the race for governor between Jerry Brown, looking for an unprecedented 4th term, and Republican challenger Neil Cash Carey. Voters also decided on at least 6 propositions that include a plan for drought relief and an easing up on sentencing laws. Latino voters in Van Nuys, although lower than other years, say that they voted for the Democratic Party.
I think there is a lot of more Latino involved in the Democrat parties, and we help each other.
I voted because all the Latino, we have to vote.
Democrat. I vote Democrat. Well, one of the main reasons is just, I look at a trend. The oldest president I can remember is Bill Clinton. And, when he left office, there was a surplus. There were all these positive things. And then a Republican president comes into office and, things slide down.
I voted Democrat. Jerry Brown's a Democrat. And so far, he's been doing pretty well.
Bueno, voté por el demócrata. She says she voted for the Democratic Party because she hopes that they give license so that people are not afraid when driving, and also to legalize those who are undocumented.
Currently, there is a record of 25.2 million Latino adult citizens living in the United States. But in this midterm election, the Latino turnout is lower than any other demographic groups. In Van Nuys, I'm Laura Camello for Valley View News.
California voters took to the polls to decide the fate of some heavily debated propositions. Californians approved a new water bond to pay for water quality projects. The passing of Proposition 2 established new rules for adding money to state budget reserves. Proposition 47 was passed, and people who commit certain non-serious crimes will be given reduced sentences.
Proposition 46 did not pass. It would have required some doctors to be subject to drug and alcohol testing. Proposition 48 was also defeated. The measure would have allowed the construction of a new Indian casino in Madera County. Along with that, Proposition 45 was also struck down. That would have required rate changes in health insurance be approved by the state insurance commissioner.
Proposition 46 is a 3-part piece of legislation that would require doctors to use a prescription drug database to prevent substance abuse. Some doctors would also have to submit to random drug and alcohol testing. Finally, the measure would raise the maximum medical malpractice suit payout to $1.1 million. Valley View News reporter James Jewett explores the issues that were put to the voters.
Proposition 46 was originally drawn up to stop prescription drug abuse through use of a database.
You can enter your patient's information and kind of see what prescriptions they've been getting. In theory, if you see multiple prescriptions from other doctors, it should start a discussion about, hey, what's actually going on here? How can I actually help you best? I'm concerned for XYZ reasons.
Prop 46 would make checking this database mandatory to curb drug-seeking behavior.
He started at one doctor's office and got it there, and then when they stopped giving it to him, he would go to another doctor's office.
But this has become such a big concern that people feel the need to react and do something, and so even if it's imperfect legislation, the fact that it's even being proposed shows how serious a concern and a risk this is.
Prop 46 supporters say the legislation has good intentions, but some are concerned about unforeseen consequences, specifically the proposed changes to medical malpractice lawsuit payouts.
As I read the initiative, I didn't see that there would be a cap placed on the payouts with respect to what the attorneys would receive if there were cases.
In a medical malpractice bodily injury,
case, you can do contingency agreements. And my understanding is that their take is anywhere between 20 and 40%.
Currently, that's 20 to 40% of $250,000.
I think that's way too low, given the amount of how high medical bills are, and this might be a bar, as I said previously, for certain clients and attorneys to even actually go after what rightfully could be a legitimate claim.
Prop 46 would raise the maximum payout to $1.1 million. The proposed legislation would also require that doctors submit to random drug and alcohol testing. Dr. Cole raises some important questions concerning the proposed testing procedures.
Who's going to do the testing? Who's going to pay for this? How much is this going to cost the average taxpayer?
Los Angeles Times says that proponents for the bill have spent close to $9 million in support. Opposition to the bill has come closer to $57 million. In Northridge, California, I'm James Jewett for Valley View News.
California Proposition 47 has passed with 58% of voters approving the measure to reduce some crimes to misdemeanors.
Opponents had strong concerns about public safety. Valley View News reporter Mahina Haina says the proposition means an estimated 10,000 offenders could petition for early release from jail.
California Proposition 47, also known as the Reduced Penalties Proposition. This prop would reduce non-serious and non-violent property and drug crimes from a felony to a misdemeanor. It would also redirect funds from prison spending to K-12 education. The California Faculty Association and the Californians for a Safe Neighborhood and Schools are amongst the supporters of the initiative. California Faculties Association worker Diego Pinagua says it's important for people to support the prop because it will only help California education.
In general, it's going to increase education, the educational budget. It pretty much it's going to start making the prison system budget smaller, which in California is pretty big, and it's going to start redistributing the money towards education instead of the prisons.
The California Faculty Association held a call-a-thon at Cal State Northridge campus to urge union members to vote yes on Prop 47. They helped inform voters on what the prop means and why they should vote for it.
Opponents of Proposition 47, such as California's Coalition Against Sexual Assault and the California Police Chiefs Association, are concerned that the initiative could release currently sentenced inmates and negatively impact public safety.
California's U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein says Prop 47 would reclassify a wide range of crimes from a felony to a misdemeanor. This would mean shorter prison sentences for serious crimes like stealing firearms, identity theft, and possessing dangerous narcotics such as cocaine and date rape drugs. California voter Cara Medell says she doesn't agree with some aspects of Prop 47.
So date rape drugs being misdemeanors is actually really scary. For example, myself being a 23-year-old that goes out to clubs with my friends, I don't want someone carrying a small amount of date rape drug and being able to put it in my drink and then them not get affected for it.
In June of this year, with 500,000 signatures, Prop 47 was certified to be on the ballot. In Northridge, Mahina Haina, Valley View News.
California voters overwhelmingly approved Proposition 1. The water bond helps fund water quality, supply, and treatment projects across the state.
Valley View's Eric Roberts spoke in Studio B with the CSUN geography professor about California's water needs.
I'm here with Dr. Emily Orm, professor of geography here at CSUN. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
So what exactly are the implications of California's water bond?
Essentially what the water bond does, it attempts to provide an upgrade to the infrastructure, to the actual mechanics of delivering water from Northern California to Southern California. Having said that, it sounds oversimplified. In fact, because of the network of aqueducts and canals, California relies on water from snowpack in the Sierra Nevada. When the snow melts each spring, then the runoff is captured, and it's usually stored in reservoirs. The major reservoirs in Northern California, such as the Shasta Reservoir, contain a vast volume of water. Water then is moved through both federal and state canals and has to pass through what is called the delta. And this is the delta of the Sacramento and San Joaquin rivers. And it's located in the immediate East Bay, that is east of San Francisco. Because this is a flatland and a series of wetlands and marshes, the water actually has to be pumped. And it can be pumped above ground or below ground. So right now, what the bond is providing for is an upgrade to a couple of the conduits, which are basically subsurface. Once the water passes through these conduits, it's then redistributed into another series of reservoirs, one of which is on the Central California coastal range. It's called the San Luis Reservoir. It's quite large, and from there it is then pumped into what we call Southern California. Southern California has essentially two components, the San Joaquin Valley, which is dominantly agricultural, and the second part, which is urban Southern California, which is the greater metropolitan Los Angeles area. For the part of the water that's actually going to go into the San Joaquin Valley, of course, agriculture is dependent on this. In the past, and even today, water is imported from other sources, in part out of the Colorado, but in part from a series of canals in the southern Sierra. Water is also provided by groundwater, which is being pumped. With the bond, this means that with the infrastructure, greater volumes of water can be passed down into the San Joaquin Valley. The other part of this, though, the urban part of it, is something that is critical in terms of sustaining the urban environment, and that means the water has to be pumped over the Tehachapi Mountains and down into the Southern California area. So part of this is also built-in infrastructure.
Okay, thanks for going over that with us. Back to you guys.
Coming up, business and entertainment.
Fans are excited as Marvel Comics releases dates for their next 9 movies. And after the crash of Spaceship Two, Virgin founder Richard Branson continues his plan to take a trip to space. Let's go to Zoe Reynolds with more of the entertainment and business news. Zoe?
Thanks, Lauren. Virgin Galactic founder Richard Branson says he still plans on boarding the first commercial flight into space. Branson's experimental Spaceship Two crashed in the Mojave Desert late last month. Branson said despite the crash and death of co-pilot Michael Ellsbury, the risk is worth it. He said 800 people have signed up to pay $250,000 for a seat on the flight. 2 more have signed up and paid for the flight to show their support.
Yes, the risk is worth it. And as I say, Mike would have been the first to say that. I'm sure his parents and his wife and his sisters would not say that, but test pilots would say that because they know the risk they're taking, that they know the importance of what they're doing. We know the importance of what we're doing.
Some critics say Branson and Virgin Galactic have underplayed the risk of what has been called space tourism. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti wants to install some controversial new crosswalks. The crosswalks require all vehicles to stop so pedestrians can move freely in all directions across the intersection. The crosswalks have been nicknamed pedestrian scrambles, but studies show they are safer for pedestrians. Many drivers find them annoying because they have to wait longer at red lights. Garcetti wants to start slowly by changing only 3 LA intersections. Beverly Hills and Pasadena have used the special crosswalks and say they are successful. Marvel has released key dates for its 9 upcoming comic book films. Avengers actor Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans attended a Hollywood event to promote the new releases. Captain America: Civil War will be released on May 6, 2016. Doctor Strange will also be released in 2016. Actor Chadwick Boseman will star in his own film as the Black Panther. The Black Panther and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 will be released in 2017. The 3rd installation of Thor Ragnarok will also show in theaters in 2017. Other releases include Captain Marvel, Inhumans, and Avengers: Infinity War Part 1 in 2018. Apple CEO Tim Cook has become one of few top executives to announce he is gay. Cook made his public declaration in an essay for Bloomberg Businessweek. For the majority of his career, Cook says he wanted to keep his personal life private. He also said many associates, even those at Apple, knew of his sexual orientation before the announcement. He says he hopes publicly disclosing his sexuality will be a help for others. Starbucks is taking a futuristic look at cashless coffee shops. iPhone's Apple Pay has some retailers like CVS and Rite Aid concerned, but not Starbucks. The CEO of Starbucks says they were already looking into cashless ways of selling coffee before Apple Pay became popular. CEO Howard Schultz says they already have more than 7 million transactions per week on the Starbucks cashless mobile app. The U.S. lags behind many other developed countries when it comes to internet speeds. A new report by the Open Technology Institute looked at the speeds of internet in dozens of cities around the world. Seoul, South Korea has the fastest internet at 1,000 megabits per second. The average U.S. connection speed is 9.8 megabits per second. Google plans on exploring high-speed networks, but it will be a long time before they are available to Americans. You know what's moving fast? Taylor Swift's new album. Her album 1989 is in no trouble. The country singer turned pop star released her album last week. Industry forecasters say her album could sell over 1.3 million copies in its first week. Nielsen SoundScan says the album 1989 may set a record for one-week sales by a woman. On Monday, the Shake It Off singer wrote on her Twitter, "So yeah, hashtag the 1989 World Tour is happening." Swift will be performing at Staples Center next summer. T-Swift must be happy her album is doing great. But that's it for business and entertainment. Now back to you.
Thanks, Zoe. Coming up next in sports, the NBA season is underway, and there are already a couple of injuries to report. Plus, find out which teams have already started off their season well.
And a college basketball player gets to play in a very special game thanks to some help from her coaches and the NCAA.
Now, before we get back to the news on what Kobe said, let's check out what's going on in the NBA. Lauren Bennett, if you had to pick one team right now that's going to go all the way this year, who do you got?
I think it'd be the San Antonio Spurs, to be honest. I mean, they could go another year with winning the championship. But first, in NBA, the past season has just kicked off and there's been plenty of drama already. LeBron James made his big return to Cleveland, but his homecoming was dinged by the New York Knicks. They upset the Cavaliers in their season opener. Derrick Rose sprained both of his ankles, which forced him out of the lineup for the Bulls game against the Timberwolves. Chris Bosh led the Miami Heat to a 3-0 record through the team's first week of play. Miami is the East's last unbeaten team. In the Western Conference, the Golden State Warriors, Memphis Grizzlies, and Houston Rockets all went a perfect 3-0 through the first week of the season. In local basketball, the Lakers and Clippers look like the two teams headed in opposite directions. The Lakers went 0-4 to open the season despite Kobe Bryant's big return to the lineup. The Clippers opened the season with wins over the Lakers and Oklahoma City Thunder on their way to a 2-1 record to start the season. The Los Angeles Lakers are still searching for their first win of the season. Kobe Bryant told Yahoo Sports that he would not consider going to another team just because of a slow start. Bryant says he would never do that because he is extremely loyal to the Lakers. In 2007, he says he did ask for a trade when the Lakers' front office did not make moves to improve the franchise. Bryant says that it is not the case now and that he stands with his team through good and bad times. A 19-year-old college basketball star played her first and last game before thousands of cheering fans. Lauren Hill has inoperable brain cancer. It was her wish to play on her Mount St. Joseph's team while she was still able. 10,000 fans flooded the stands to see Hill play. She hit a left-handed layup for the first 2 points of the game. Hill's teammates surrounded her at center court after the basket and presented her with the game ball. Hill suffers from severe headaches and nausea from the cancer and her medication, so she spent much of the game on the bench. At halftime, legendary Tennessee coach Pat Summitt presented her with the Pat Summitt Most Courageous Award. Hill's doctors say she has only a few months to live, but she did not let that stop her. The NCAA football rankings say Mississippi State is number 1 and Florida State number 2. It's the second week in a row they've topped the rankings. Both have 8-0 records. Auburn is in 3rd, a jump from 4th last week. Alabama dropped from 3rd to 4th with a 7-1 record. Oregon State in 5th. TCU had the biggest jump from 10th to 6th this week. Notre Dame dropped from 6th to 8th with a 7-1 record. Let's talk NFL football. The Arizona Cardinals extended their record to 7-1 with a decisive victory in Dallas. Carson Palmer threw for 249 yards with 3 touchdown passes. The Cardinals remain number 1 in the NFC West. Big Ben did big things at Heinz Field. Roethlisberger threw for 340 yards and 6 TDs to set an NFL record for touchdown passes in consecutive games. Minnesota spoiled RG3's return. The young Vikings quarterback Teddy Bridgewater led the team to a 29-26 victory. Elite quarterbacks Tom Brady and Peyton Manning went head-to-head at Gillette Stadium, but it was Julian Edelman's performance that swung momentum in the Pats' favor. His 89-yard punt return gave New England a lead they would never lose. Brady and Patriots came out on top by a score of 43-21. The Los Angeles Kings have lost 4 games in a row. The 4th loss came against the Carolina Hurricanes. They are in last place in the Metropolitan Division. The Hurricanes faced a full Kings lineup. Previously injured stars Marian Gaborik and Anze Kopitar took the ice in the Kings' 3-2 loss in Carolina. Hurricane netminder Cam Ward shut down the Kings forwards, making 32 saves. That's 93% of the shots the Kings fired at him. The Kings are now 5th in the Pacific Division. Hopefully the LA Kings can turn it around. And that's it for sports. Back to you.
Thanks, Lauren. The Halloween season brings out some pretty interesting characters, especially in West Hollywood.
The WeHo Parade attracted an estimated 500,000 people this year. Valley View News reporter Timothy Whitfield was on the scene walking the walk among all the flashy costumes.
Santa Monica Boulevard is just another street in West Hollywood, but that all changes on October 31st. Thousands of people with and without costumes are drawn here for the Halloween festivities. This Halloween parade showcases several attractions. Outside of the many elaborate costume, the parade has several stages for concert entertainment.
Well, I enjoy Halloween. It's the best holiday ever. Now I really enjoy the atmosphere, and it's a lot of fun, so you can't go wrong.
I think just the crowd, I think, brings everybody over here, and that's just what makes it. I mean, you can't get this many people anywhere else.
The streets were filled with a variety of costumes that beckoned people to stop and take pictures. Some costumes were intended to scare, while others were not.
Are you planning to scare anybody with this costume, or is this just something interesting that you like?
Scared? No, probably not. It's not really gory or scary at all.
Mother Nature attempted to cut the parade short as the pouring rains drenched the streets. The people were unaffected and still paraded down the street as if the rains had never started. Others managed to take shelter when the rain became too intense. I weathered the storms too in my own costume as Frankenstein's torso. Many have begun to cheer because it started raining here at the parade in West Hollywood. But that hasn't stopped the people from flaunting their costumes and celebrating the holiday. I'm Timothy Whitfield, Valley View News, West Hollywood.
Thank you for joining us for this special edition of Valley View News. I'm Danny Max.
And I'm Lauren Lanos. Have a great day.